Hi friends, my name is krishnaakumalla. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to discuss on how to calculate the due date for bills of exchange. This is very important, guys, because there are different ways and means to look into the due dates. So without wasting much time, let us get into the presentation and understand how different bill due dates have been calculated. Okay, right. Okay, guys. Let us understand how to calculate the due date in different scenarios. The first one is when the bill is made payable on a specific date. When the bill is made payable on a specific date. For example, if the bill is prepared in such a way that the amount has to be paid on 31st January. On the bill, it is very clearly mentioned that drawee has to pay the bill amount on 31st January. That means what? Specific date has been mentioned on the bill stating that drawee has to pay the bill amount on this date. This is called specific date. Specific date. The specific date has been mentioned on the bill saying that, boss, you have to pay the bill amount on this date. Then what should be the due date? The due date will be the specific date. The due date will be the specific date. What is the specific date here? In this example, 31st January will be the specific date. Are you clear? Okay. Let us move on to the next one. When the bill is made payable at a stated number of months after date. At a stated number of months after date. What do you mean by after date? Do you remember I told you this after date concept? After date is what? Suppose if I prepare a bill and if the bill date says 1st January 2024, this bill date is called after date. This bill date is called after date. So after this date, any months are given. For example, when the bill is made payable at a stated number of months. Okay, 1st January 2024, we said bill has to be paid, bill amount has to be paid in 3 months after the date. That means what? After this date, within 3 months, 3 months is the term. After the date, 3 months time has been given on the bill. That means what? From this date, 3 months you have to calculate, not days, 3 months. So when we say 3 months, so January is 1 month. We don't require to be worried about this date, 1st January or 2nd January or 3rd January, 3 months. So January is 1 month, 1st January is the bill date. So January whole month I have to take into account. Am I right or wrong? Whole month of January I have to take because the bill date is 1st January. So January 1 month, February another month, March is the 3rd month. March, what date I need to consider? March 31st. March 31st. Are you clear? Let us say the bill is written on January 31st. Bill is written on January 31st. Here the date will be 31st January. For 3 months. Payable after 3 months. So January month we need not consider because 31st January is the date, month end. So we don't require to consider 31st January. So February one whole month, March 1 whole month, April. April month end is what date? April 30th. So April 30th will be the due date. So 3 months will be calculated after this date. So we calculated 31st January. So 31st January we should not take into account. In previous example, 1st January, that should not be considered into account. So from that day, the whole January month you have to take into account. February you have to take into account. March you have to take into account. Here March 31st. In this example, this will be April 30th. So here what it says, when the bill is made payable at a stated number of months after date. So after this date, 3 months you need to calculate, not days, months you need to calculate. Clear? Next, when the bill is made payable at a stated number of days after the date. This is another important point. Suppose if the bill is written on 1st January 2024. It says the bill amount is payable after 30 days. Here days mentioned are not months. The bill amount has to be paid after 30 days. So while calculating this 30 days, you should not take 1st January into account. So you need to start taking the date from 2nd January. So calculate 2nd January, 30 days. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. Like that, if you start calculating, the due date will be falling on 31st January. The due date will be falling on 31st January, excluding this 1st January. Excluding this 1st January. So excluding the bill date, 30 days you need to take into account. That date is falling on 31st January. So that is what you need to take in this case. If the bill payable at a stated number of days after the date. After the date means this date. Guys, one thing you need to keep in mind here. Whenever I say due date is different from maturity date. Maturity date will come into the picture after adding 3 days of grace period. So I'm not talking about the maturity date. I'm talking about only due date. Hope you are very clear on this point. Next, when the due date is a public holiday. When the due date is a public holiday. For example, the due date is coming on August 15th. When the bill due date is coming on August 15th, then the previous day will be the due date, August 14th. This is applicable only in case of public holidays. This is applicable only in case of public holidays. So if the due date is falling on August 15th, which is a public holiday, your due date will be August 14th, not August 15th. Clear? Next. When the due date is an emergency or due unforeseen holiday. What is that emergency or unforeseen holidays? For example, Corona lockdown period. That is an emergency holiday, correct? Or when there is a curfew. When there is a curfew, that is an emergency holiday. So in those cases, in those circumstances, whenever there is a emergency holiday, maybe due to any curfew or any corona, anything, any reason, if there is a emergency holiday declared by the government, that emergency holiday will not be considered as a due date. Next day will be considered as a due date. Suppose August 20th is an emergency holiday. Okay? 21st will be your due date. Next following day. So emergency holiday is on 20th. Next following day will be 21st. So 21st will be your due date. So in case of public holidays, one day prior will be the due date. In case of emergency holidays, one day following day will be your due date. So this is how the due dates have to be calculated. Are you clear? So that's all for due dates. I hope you are clear on this topic, right? Thank you so much.